right, here we are.
Here we are.
Poland, Gdansk.
We're in Gdansk and we are here to play a concert with Capella Gdańensis, and it's going to be solo electric cello with loops and effects, and the full chamber orchestra and the full choir, and they're going to be conducted by you.
Yes, that's right. Which is very exciting for me as well.
Yeah.
To be in a foreign country, in a foreign culture, with a professional orchestra,
Yeah, right.
and with different music than there used to be played. It's a Baroque orchestra, and we already had 2 rehearsals, one with choir and one full, and up to now I really enjoyed it. The concert is tonight.
The concert is tonight, and there's not an awful lot of setup time, so that will be interesting as well, because I am quite certain that the orchestra don't usually play, certainly not with a PA system and not with an electric cellist, or person playing an electric cello.
Which sounds very weird on a poster, by the way.
Does it?
Yeah, I tried to read it, but I...
no, yeah. It's always a bit iffy, isn't it?
Yeah, but anyway, they played with you already.
Yes, yeah. 2.5 years ago.
2.5 years ago, right? Yeah.
But we've got this time completely different repertoire, and I'm going to start with a solo piece, then we're going to go on do one with the choir, The Breathing Hand, which Mohan Rana wrote a poem inspired by this music called The Crossing, and then I set that into music for choir, and I've never written for a choir before, so it was a bit of a bit of a hard task for me, but luckily it's been sounding okay, and I think largely because of your direction and the fact that we shifted everything up to 440.
Yeah, that was quite a thing.
Yeah.
That was quite a thing.
Made a huge difference.
They're used to playing in Baroque tuning.
Yeah.
Like, what was it?
432.
432, which is not the modern tuning. The modern tuning would be like 440 for an orchestra, 441, 442. And I don't know why the choir were having such a difficult time keeping everything in tune in 432, because I thought of it afterwards. I could imagine that they will always play in this tuning. So maybe it was just the day, dry air, wet air, atmospheric, whatever, air pressure, temperature, I don't know. A lot of things can influence it, but luckily it worked.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, they were at ease.
It's weird because it's one of the reasons, although I didn't realise it at the time, but it's one of the reasons that I perform almost all the time, with the exception of tonight, at 432 now. And when I did 5 Incantations, which is my most recent album, I started recording it with my producer at 440. And around this time, I can't remember how it happened, but I'd started to do some research into 432. And I began playing at 432, and I sort of experimented. And actually, I left 2 basically. What I did was then I went back, started the album again, and recorded the whole thing at 432.
Yeah.
James, luckily, was happy to do that, because we'd only done 2 tracks.
Yeah.
But interestingly, I left, there's a track called Gold, and I left it at the 440 recording available on Bandcamp and the 432. And the only thing I know that there's a hell of a lot of research that's been done into it, and there's a lot of science behind it, but I know only how I feel and what my audiences say to me. And when I play at 432, people come afterwards and tell me very, very big stories about how they felt and what something that moved them. I think more so than I experienced when I play at 440, and it's, to me, it's something. I was saying this to the choir on our first rehearsal, but there's something when the music's sitting at 432. It's lower, of course, it's lower, but it's not as by a whole semitone or something. But there's something in it which sits somehow in the body as well, and that's the only way I can describe it. And it seems to be very. It's almost a tactile kind of thing. It's very interesting, and that's why I wanted always to do 432.
I never read a lot about it. Where did you do the research?
Oh, there's a book by a lady called Maria Reynolds. It's a huge, great tome. And I think when I've read it probably 5 more times, I might understand maybe the first paragraph. But it's... and I've since gone on, and since I've been talking about 432, several people have kindly written and suggested different readings and researches to do. So I know there's a lot out there that is being talked about. But
I couldn't discuss anything about 432 with you because I really don't know. I told you the story about when I used to be in a boys' choir, and the church organ was tuned down to. It wasn't tuned down. It was originally tuned in 4/3 something. It might have been 4/3 actually, or I remember something of 4/3 5. But anyway, the reason I thought of it yesterday was because it always worked. We always sang with that organ, and you don't tune up an organ like in the flick of a wrist, you know? I mean, we're talking about a huge church organ. So we had to do something different, and the conductor supposed we should sing the whole piece a semitone higher.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and then it worked for us. For the choir, it worked.
Okay.
For the organ player, obviously, that was a bit of a problem.
Yeah.
But this guy was so good, so he actually played the whole piece a semitone
Wow.
higher, right off the music. And just a funny thing was, conductor asked him, "How do you do it?" And he says, "I'll just shift up a bit." So it actually happened. He was one of the great. He passed away a long time. Alfons Schaalman was his name.
Oh, right.
But anyway, I found out then. I was 11, 12 or something. I found out then that you can. I used the term yesterday. You can sink in these notes. Like the first half of the rehearsal, the choir really had difficulties to find the right tuning, and they were like constantly reaching for, because it wasn't the G or the B flat or whatever. It was also the A. The moment they started singing the A, it was out of tune.
It's funny, isn't it?
Yeah, and they tried to reach it, but they couldn't grab it. So, yeah, they could because they're professionals, but it took them that much energy.
Yeah.
And there was nothing left for anything.
Yes.
You could hear it in dynamics as well. They weren't singing dynamically. They lost sight of everything, basically.
But then, when you said 440, we played the piece again, and this was it was this Path with Grace we were doing, wasn't it? Which is a big 20-minute piece that I wrote this piece actually for Capella Gednensis, following my last concert with them, and it was that choir section. Within that, there's a lot of A.
Yeah, it's one big A. Yeah.
And it's but there needs to be quite a lot of dynamic range in there, because it's very, funnily enough, because it's such a still moment within the piece, and obviously what comes then at the finale is this big,
that's right,
resplendent moment. But this is this very, very quiet and very held, and as soon as we did it, your suggestion at 440, it was as though they
opening up,
and sat on it, rather than
that's what I mean.
It's funny.
It's like they could now sink in the tuning
precisely,
and settle themselves, so to speak. I can't really, like, my English is not that far in these kinds of conversations, but you know what I mean.
I know exactly.
They can like settle themselves in this tuning, and it's kind of a safe haven.
Yes.
You know, you don't have to think about the A. Being in tune or out of tune. It's in tune because you can feel it, and then you've got like the extra brain capacity to think about the other things.
Yes.
And it's not something I invented. It's just something.
It's the truth, isn't it?
I don't know. It's the truth, but it works. So for yesterday, it was the truth.
Yes. It makes me wonder a little bit about the perfect pitch as well, and whether that's something which is innate and internal and something one is born with, or whether it's something that actually is learned, and whether, because it's so much easier to operate 440, and that is where most people are pushing music out. That's most of the things we hear is this frequency,
Yeah.
you know. And it
Yeah.
it's interesting. Although I think Dark Side of the Moon is at 432. Funnily enough. Anyway,
Yeah.
doesn't matter.
Okay, great. So Roger did his research as well.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we're not alone.
No. I mean, it could be, but it has to be workable. I'm quite sure that if Pink Floyd found out that 432 didn't do it for them, they would have probably done it at 440.
Yes, I think so.
Despite all the things that were written about
Yes,
it. In the end of the day, we've got to do a concert tonight, and it's got to work.
Yes, and it's going to be at 440. You know.
Yeah, and I mean, this is difficult enough as it is for the choir as well, because it's not something they're used to.
No.
And the thing is, they've got these really long, ongoing, the same notes, and I can imagine for them it's really hard to keep the tension in that, and the direction where this is go, and it's not only them singing that note and that's it. I mean, they have to, whilst singing that note, be supportive to whoever else is singing or playing at that moment. And you tend to forget if you sing the same note for about 6 minutes.
If you think about it, I mean, as a string player, I mean, obviously, I wrote the piece, so I should have thought about it probably. But I wanted it like this. But it's like, sometimes I have to do, I do sessions and stuff for film, and sometimes it's James particularly writes often very, very, very high, quiet and sustained things. And as a string player, in fact, it's like the end of the John Tavener that we're doing as well. Very silent. It must be absolutely crystal clear. Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah. Well,
let's hope, you know.
that's one more reason. That's one more reason to make them comfortable.
Yeah.
I mean, this we talked about what was it? We talked about the expression, the Dutch expression, which we couldn't quite translate to English. The art of
playing the silence, we thought it was, or something.
That's
a
what
bit
we
clumsy,
made of it, basically. But everything extra is too much.
Yeah.
And in this end of Tevin, for example, extra adds up.
Yeah.
That's like 1 + 1 is like 5 or something. So every single detail that's too much has to be left out.
Yes.
And it's even more possible when everyone's at ease.
Yeah.
Actually. Yeah.
It's funny because I'm quite aware of this when I write, when I compose pieces of music, and I'm writing with, obviously, I'm composing essentially for me to perform it with a loop station. I've got 3 different channels on the loop station, and I guess one approach is to say, oh, fabulous, you know, I've got 3 channels, let's fill them all up and bang, 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 bang. But for me, it's what's interesting with looping is how little can be put in order for the piece to still have its. I suppose it's like a map, but there's kind of like musical, I think, you know, musical signposts along the way, and to be able to get the music to flow. For me, it's not enough for it to be continue. It must have integrity, and if that means that the key is the same all the way through, because that's what the piece needs, that's fine. But also, for me, what's fascinating is whether I can change a harmonic area almost completely. What can I bring in? What can I bring out? You know, and how can this be done with integrity and grace and not too many cock ups? You know.
Great personnel.
I will say, actually, for the record, we have a fantastic crew. You know,
do.
Simon, Alan, Peter. My gosh.
Yeah, it's absolutely. You're right. You're right. It feels like all of this feels very professional.
Yes.
No, I mean it. It's not even a joke. I really mean it.
No, I know.
Despite the fact we went out last night, you know, like a really strange club, but it was great. It was great.
Well, you're going to be in the town hall tonight.
Yeah.
Which apparently is very beautiful, but with acoustics dry as a bone. So
is it dry here?
Apparently, yeah. We'll have to see though.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's okay because Peter's here, so he can put reverb for me. It's one of the things. It massively affects how I feel. Actually, though,
Yeah.
you know, it is obvious thing.
You
to
like
say,
reverb, by the way, don't you?
I do. Yeah. But I like. It's part of. I think it's an integral part of my sound, my reverbs. But bear in mind, I use a Boss GT100, so it's a multi-effects board. So within there, there's a lot of room to alter and to manipulate reverbs. It's not like having one of the cathedral pedals or something like that. But for what I do, it's absolutely perfect. And I've started to realise, this is really obvious to probably everybody else in the room and the world except me, but I started to realise that if I alter certain things on my reverbs, like where I cut the high and low, or if I'm going to use a pre-delay, stuff like this, then actually, obviously, the sound is very different. But what happens is when I'm using these, when I'm writing sounds, when the sound is on its own, it sounds completely bizarre. So I have to be really careful when I'm going through and programming sounds, because initially, when I write a piece of music, when I'm putting, if I want something to appear a certain way, I write as though I was writing for an orchestra just for myself. So I know that, for example, I want some of the high-end stuff, so it would be, the woodwinds or something like that. And then I alter the reverbs mainly rather than the body of the sound to give that carry through. But of course, if you play them on their own, they sound revolting. And I've fallen foul of this a few times where I've thought, my gosh, what was the matter with me making this sound? And so I go and I do all these alterations. Then I play the piece again, and of course it doesn't work. So
are you telling me that part of your composing is also programming, or as you wish, composing the sound, basically?
Yes, increasingly more so. When I first got my electric cello, I spent a long time trying to make it sound like a cello, which in some ways is a kind of bizarre activity. But the primary reason that I had an electric cello to begin with was that I was playing lots of gigs and I didn't want to take my beautiful Ferber cello out. So then, particularly with my first album, in fact, much of that was recorded on an acoustic cello.
Okay.
So, and the effects were put on afterwards. There was delays and stuff. Literally, all went on afterwards. With Caldera, my second album, it was done 50-50. So some of the acoustic-y type pieces, like Isla's song, they were actually done on the acoustic cello, or the Hidden Forest, which is a big solo thing. With Caldera, it was all done on electric cello, but so much more of this now is that composing, I suppose, is absolutely focused on the sounds and the sorts of effects that I'm getting, but combined with, I suppose, what you would call extended technique at times, or just normal, just playing the cello. But it's what you can do. For example, if you play, on a viola, if you play very, very slowly, very near to the bridge, you pick up a lot of scratches, and you pick up the whole of the high of the harmonic ends. So if you have this, if you put a little bit of, I use a sub overdrive thing in this path with grace, the sound, because it's on a cello and not a guitar, the sound behaves slightly unusually. So the note sometimes breaks, if you like. But then what happens is the effects kick in afterwards, and they ping out these strange things that you did a few seconds ago. It's fascinating. And so sometimes the music will start from like a weird sound I've made by accident. I'd really like to sound a bit more professional than this, but that is the truth. Other times it's, it can be at very spiritually driven and things, and that's certainly true. But there is also an aspect of sometimes the piece of music receives its identity, if you like, through some kind of sonic mistake, and then suddenly it's like, whoa, now we can work,
Okay, well, I must be honest, I never really thought of that, basically. It's not, I mean, obviously, because it's a completely different thing than I do. If I play the viola, which is not that often anymore, I just play the viola. And if I compose, I don't even compose, I arrange. So if I arrange, well, in a way you could say you're working with sounds, but that it more sounds like this instrument goes well with that instrument or something, but not new. I've got a a set of instruments.
Yes.
Like, yeah.
But I was just going to ask you though, because look at what you're doing with the orchestra in Southwest Nights, which is something we'll perform tonight. But that's your opening line to them was, we're composers and performers, and you're getting them to do all sorts of stuff. I mean, how do you do that with an orchestra and choir?
Well, I try to visualize that I'm in the orchestra myself, and if I'm in an orchestra where I play Baroque music 99% of the times, and this strange Dutch guy comes in, or whoever, as a conductor, and tells you to do stuff you've never done before, which isn't particularly hard to do technically, and I'm a professional, I studied for this, musicians are proud people, especially the ones in professional orchestras. So picture that from their point of view, and you cannot just tell them you have to do this.
No.
Because you'll never reach them that way. So what I'll try to do, that's what I told them yesterday. Listen, I know it's really weird and I know it's really strange. I even know it's not going to work today. It's not going to work today. Today is just to get used to. But when we're in a concert, it's a completely different atmosphere. That's something they know. That's something they're familiar with. And that's an environment where, in my humble opinion, they have the ability for themselves and for others to, let go, basically, and just do stuff like that. Not on a Monday morning in the middle of Gdansk and 11 o'clock, 30 minutes before coffee arrives. I mean, that's too far apart. So if I can, with telling them those things, make that gap a little less wide, basically, then I've got a bit of leverage for the concert. And then I only have to look at them, or what we talked about, and then they know, and the rest is the rest for Southwest Night is done in the rest of the rehearsal. Even with this Path of Grace, even with the other pieces, we're still rehearsing for Southwest Night, and vice versa, because there needs to be an atmosphere where they want to work for you and for you as a soloist as well. So it's not just rehearsing this Path of Grace, or just the Breathing Hand, or just Southwest Night. It's all in all, it's all together. It's not from 10 to 1, it's from 9:30 to 1:30, including the break, where you meet the people, where you talk to the people, where you shake their hand, where you create an atmosphere. And that way, hopefully, make them want to do 2 steps extra for you. Not necessarily at rehearsal, but tonight. That's what it's all about. So, in my opinion, that would be the best way to rehearse for Southwest Night. I mean, we played it, obviously, but it wasn't even necessary to rehearse it. Once was enough. Now we did it twice, that's more than enough. And tonight, this is really cheesy, but the magic's gonna happen. You know what I mean? So
I know.
Yeah,
it's weird.
That's how I think about it. I don't know if it, but we'll find out if it works. I guess it will work, because I was surprised that at the rehearsal already they took a giant step towards that direction. So it might even work.
Let's hope so. Let's hope so. Oh gosh, it'll be great though. It'll be very nice to premiere this Path with Grace with them as well, because it's obviously we did it in London a couple of years back, which was a very, very special performance, different ensemble. But it's very nice to be able to perform this piece with this orchestra that I thought of when I was writing it, and even with it was written for Mike Fletcher made a beautiful film about Iceland, basically, and so that was kind of the starting point, was these these big glaciers and derelict churches and things, but also at the same time was capella, and the choir and everything else. So for me, it's really exciting to be able to do that. I think that it's been a pleasure for me to work with you on that because we've known each other since the dawn of time, and you know how music, what my journey is and how it's been for me. And then so to be able to, I was thinking about this last night, you know, and to be able to sort of get on a stage or floor, as the case may be.
There is no stage.
Oh, damn. Well, at least we can't fall off it then, can we? Yeah, it's perk to the job. But it's going to be very, very special, you know. And also, I'm grateful to you because I'm asking you to conduct this piece with a click track. It's easy for me because I use in-ears all the time now. And I use, I've got some moulded ones and they're ultimate ear ones. They're really, really, really good. Great drivers in them. And basically what I can do, or what they've enabled me to do, is to sort of run a secret click track, but also I can balance out my loops and I can balance the whole thing, so I can alter the levels of my loops. Obviously I do that on a desk, but it's how the in-ears then respond and give to me. And I can also have the direct line of my cello coming in at a different volume. Now you'd think that there is therefore a foolproof situation, and I'm sorry to report that it isn't, but at least I can hear now. You know? And of course it would be impossible to perform this Path with Grace with a full orchestra and choir for me without these. It would be impossible.
And without a click track
Without a click track, exactly.
The click track in itself is not the problem. I mean, that's easy. It's just like you go along with the click. The problem is to get the orchestra so far to follow you as well, because I'm their click track.
Yes.
And especially in the first rehearsal, you saw that the orchestra has a tendency to be a bit late behind my direction.
Great blues playing, you know, behind.
Yeah, it's great blues playing. Apart from the fact that when you're playing with a click track, you've got a huge problem.
Yeah.
So they have to be on the thing, on the beat.
Yeah.
But they found out.
Yeah.
They found out that's the way, because I'm not stopping.
Yeah.
So there were a few moments where they're like, they settled in these notes. I was like, chuck, 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 chuck. And then if you start later, the bar is it's not going to shift. It's just going to be shorter.
Yeah.
So it was like playing the last note in the bar. Like, oh, fuck, he's already there. Yeah, that happens 2-3 times. All right. I'm giving in. I'm starting. So that it's no problem.
Yeah. God. Well, at least I suppose there's having the rigidity of the opening bit and then the finale. There's 2 bits in the middle where, actually, I love how they play it and how you directed it with the pizzicato, boom, boom, boom. But it's very, very organic. I can't stand that word, but it is organic. I can't think of a better word right now, but it's alive when it's like that, and it's very interesting to just say, okay, you know, here are the dots on the page, but let's all listen to each other, you know.
Yeah.
And it worked beautifully. You know,
I didn't. I think the main reason is that I didn't interfere. Basically.
Yeah, isn't it interesting? It's like,
Please do your stuff,
and then do your glissando.
Yeah, have fun, and I'm going to do something else, like with the choir and everything. But I mean, what can I do? Boom, boom, boom. No way.
No.
It worked out great the first time.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, this is it. I'm not going to interfere, but
I
mean, they still have got to listen to each other.
Yeah.
A problem a lot of musicians have. They don't do that.
Yeah.
But they did, so that's really good.
Yeah, it's funny. It goes back around in a circle again to this. This isn't the expression, but playing the silences. You know, which is one of the things that fascinates me in music. When you have, I mean, I'm not just thinking about John Cage, you know, in his 4 minutes 33 seconds, whatever it is, but just the actual space is in, and that's a particularly good example in this particular bit of this Path of Grace, where there are moments, if Alicia on the cellos does that boom, 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 and there can be a moment where nothing happens, and the nothingness is usually it's the kind of feared area on the stage, I think, and so listening and not playing is kind of quite brave. Some ways, or for some people, I don't know. I haven't really thought about it much.
Yeah,
but
you're absolutely right.
You know, that is this big yawning chasm of nothingness, which is so incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
Far more than, you know, kind of.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
No, I totally agree. I totally agree. And she did a very good job.
Beautiful.
At that.
Beautiful.
The moment she found out it was actually a solo,
Solo.
and
Weird.
not
Yeah.
just an
Yeah.
effect or something, then she took the lead.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
she was supposed to do.
Yeah.
I had to remind her, but she did eventually. And now I don't bother anymore.
Yeah.
But it makes my life a lot easier because if she takes the lead, I can just go along with her.
Just wave your arm.
Yeah, instead of.
Brilliant.
No, I'm quite lazy. That's how it works.
God, aren't we all? Yeah. But sometimes I have such trouble. We talked about this before, but motivating myself to go into my music room sounds really weird. But if I don't do it first thing in the morning, my day, I might as well write it off. I could just go shopping, you know, because it's really like it's totally weird. I can't turn the computer on. I can't do. I take Isla to school, come back. I have to. That's it. I have to start working.
This is my life in a nutshell.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
No, I have to. I these days I get up like at 7:30, 7:45. I start working at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
If I don't do that, my day's gone.
It's gone.
Shit, yeah.
Isn't it weird?
Yeah.
It's like you can't even go in at 10 either. You have to do it.
No. Or if someone says, "Oh yeah, we have to meet. We have to talk about whatever."
Yeah.
Shall I meet you 11 o'clock in the morning?
Yeah.
No.
No. Please don't. Yeah.
Please don't. Like 4 o'clock in the afternoon, that's fine.
Maybe even that's a push.
But
you
not.
know?
I mean, what kind of time is that? I'm working then. Yeah, this is work as well. No,
It's really funny, isn't it?
It's nice you bring it up. I know it's something completely different, but as I am now a full-time arranger, basically, before that, up till like 3-4 months ago, I lectured. I had I did music lectures in a school.
That's right. Yeah.
And 6 hours of lecturing in one day.
Whoa.
So that was good.
Yeah.
That was good. Like one day, it was on a Tuesday. But in a day, in a week, it works exactly the same. Because if you consider a working week to be Monday to Friday, then the Tuesdays you're 11 o'clock.
Oh no!
Yeah.
So
really that's how it felt for me. So basically on Monday it was like, I've got to work tomorrow. Yeah. Then on Tuesday you work, and then on Wednesday when you start, it's like, oh shit, half the week is already gone.
Yeah.
So then I decided to quit my job.
Right.
That job, and now instead of 6 extra hours, I've got about 2 extra days to work.
Isn't that funny?
It's really strange, but that's how it worked for me.
I can completely imagine.
And I had to explain to some people, and then I called my mother. She said, "I know exactly what you mean."
It's strange.
Yeah, it's really weird.
Yeah,
and that really helps.
Yes.
I don't know how we got to the subject anyway, but this is. It was composing at 11 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. But you have to take the time, and some people are really good, like midnight workers and things, you know. And
it's not an advice.
I also find that my ears get tired quite quickly, and I always work with ears in. So,
okay, yeah.
Because basically that's my kind of point of reference. Normally what happens is I work that. It has to work there. Then I take it into a studio and I stick it through a PA. If it works, great, but never really know until you actually get into a gig, and then there's usually adjustments made then as well. Okay. But I find that I have to sort of do other things. So maybe I work for an hour, and then for 5 minutes I'm doing something without the ears, and then back. It's like a kind of tide thing, you know. But it has to be this way because after a while I find I can't hear properly. Not because of the volume, but just that I lose the clarity, and I'm knackered, absolutely knackered, you know.
I know. So well, those are the moments you called me and I said, have a glass of wine and go on the next morning.
This is why you're so important to me, because many times I've sent you a message or rung you up and said, yes, I'm stuck. And it's like, you don't know what I'm composing, but you say, drink a glass of wine, listen to 80s rock,
Yeah.
you know, or something else. Or any other thing you said to me was, actually, it was with this Path with Grace, I was, because it was a weird piece. It was weird because for ages I had like that.
Yeah.
Nothing else. And where it started was really weird because there was this big D and then there was all this kind of like fally dilly dallying around, you know, these notes. And I said, I'm stuck. And you said, just play it. So I just picked up my cello afterwards and I went, da 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 da, and that was it then. You know.
I didn't know that was the team that came out of that.
There you are. Talking about ego. What I was going to talk about was the fact that I spent a lot of time writing, and I've got these beautiful A4 spiral bound books, hundreds of them, and they are word journeys of my albums, you know. And I look back on that, and I sometimes write dreams down in them as well. I write down how I'm feeling, a lot of thoughts and feelings. Obviously, before I was a mum, I had a lot of time to be terribly introspective and kind of wafting around all over the place. Now I'm much more focused about things. But what I sensed, and I read back in my book yesterday, I was writing, I read back and I sensed, I remember this about 4 weeks ago, something felt different. That's the only way I can describe it. And it sensed like something was hardening, and I was uncomfortable with this. Like emotionally, it felt like I'm not like that. I think I'm quite a warm person. I will love people unless proved otherwise, you know.
Yeah.
And it just felt like there was this kind of slight hardening. Anyway, yesterday we had a very nice rehearsal, and at the end of the Sviati, I remember saying to you yesterday, I wish this would always feel like this because it felt easy. It felt the bow was smooth. It was like soft butter. You know, the shifts were smooth, and it was because I was totally relaxed. It was just a wonderful experience to play. And you said, and it will be always this easy. And I thought, great, maybe you've cast a spell. That's fantastic. You know? But then I was writing and thinking, so something that belonged to the younger cellist of me isn't. Has dissipated somehow, and I don't mean it's because I think I'm brilliant, because I don't, and I know full well that there are people who are 1,000 years younger than I am who are much better than I will ever be, and there's one of them sitting in the orchestra. You know, there's it's no point. Don't come and see me if you want to come and see somebody do the Dvorak cello concerto. But if you want to see somebody who I hope is, I feel within and without of the cello. It's like this DNA. We've often talked about this week, the shape of the DNA strand. But this is how I feel about music and how I feel about playing. And the fact that the arm doesn't end, the arm ends at the end of the bow. And so the whole body plays. This is the interesting thing about playing standing up as well, you see, because when you sit down, what I find when I sit down, I take for granted how I play. I take absolutely where my hips are, what my, obvious things you might think. When you stand up, you don't have any of that. And so another thing I'm very aware of is the movement, how I play without hips on a chair. Funny things like this. But anyway, then I was thinking, is this the age-old thing? But it's, in order to get on a stage, you must have some kind of ego, and I don't like the thought. I don't like the word ego, I suppose, in its kind of modern sense. Maybe in its Jungian sense it's better. I don't know, but
it's probably used in a negative way.
Yes,
which gives it a negative sound, but it doesn't have to be like that. I mean, I'm quite sure that when I'm on stage, I have an ego too, and I'm aware of the fact that I will have to have that ego. Otherwise, I couldn't do on stage. I could perform on stage. It has to be bigger than you. I mean, let's be honest. If you're on stage, you're on stage because there is an audience sitting in a hall.
Yeah.
And with a bit of luck, that audience is more than like one person. Yeah. Well, it might be 10, it might be 100, it might be 1,000, whatever.
Yeah.
You've got to convince all of them of what you're doing.
Yes.
And that cannot be done without ego.
Yes.
In my humble opinion.
Yeah.
Also depends on what you do.
Yeah.
What you do. In my role as a conductor, I think I need it.
Yeah.
Because people are depending on me.
Yes.
whether it be a professional choir and orchestra as in the concert tonight, or not, these people still depend on me. They still depend on the fact that I start somewhere and I end somewhere and I give them a direction somewhere. And I think ego is necessary also for that.
Yes.
You just have to switch your ego off again if you go off stage. No, I mean that's what it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's functional.
Yes.
It's functional, and therefore I don't see it as a negative thing.
No.
No.
That's interesting.
And if you embrace it, well, basically, if you embrace it, I like being on stage.
See, that's it. So do I.
I really like being on stage. Put a light, no, put 10 lights there. Basically, 100, no, put 1,000, put 10,000. I don't care. The more, the merrier.
Yeah.
That's not because, and that's not how I am. I tend to think that's not. I mean, I'm more like, okay,
yeah.
Right. So, but on stage, that's mine.
Yes.
And if you can embrace that and you can change it the minute you go off, then I don't find any negativity in it.
It's not negative.
No. No. It's also a bit of a role you play. Let's be honest.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it is. And for some it's more, and for some it's less.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna. I don't know if it's better or worse.
Yeah.
I mean, it depends on what you play as well.
Yes.
I mean, it depends per piece you play.
Yes.
If you've got like this really intimate little piece, then the power should be that it is really small and intimate, and there's absolutely no egos involved. And if it's good enough, they will all like feel it, buy it, whatever.
Yeah.
But if it's like if it's the start of this path with grace, yes, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Yes, of course. And you need to know when to use it.
Yes. Oh, it's fascinating, eh? It's great conversation, great chats. Yeah.